Imagine a world without the fast-paced, immersive video games that, well, pretty much define entertainment for a lot of us today.
It's hard to even picture. Right.
Totally. Now, picture two young guys, barely out of their teens, whose intense collaboration and then later this big rivalry completely reshaped that world.
It really is a foundational story for modern gaming. I mean, the sheer scale of their impact, you still feel it today.
Absolutely. And today, we're diving into David Kushner's Masters of Doom, which is just this gripping look at John Carmack and John Romero, the brilliant minds behind games like Doom and Quake.
Yeah, the big ones.
So our mission today is to unpack their incredible journey. We're talking from their often really turbulent use right up to the pinnacle of gaming success.
And also the revolution they sparked in how we play, the huge national conversation that kind of kicked off about culture and violence.
And, of course, the really intricate dynamics of their partnership, how it worked, and ultimately how it fractured their friendship.
So yeah, this deep dive, it's basically your shortcut to understanding how innovation, raw ambition, and let's be honest, a bit of defiance carved this indelible mark on popular culture.
You'll get those surprising facts, those aha moments about how modern gaming really got its start.
Let's dig in.
Okay, so our story really kicks off with these two guys from wildly different backgrounds. You almost couldn't make it up.
Right. On one side, you've got John Romero,
Yeah.
often seen as the rock star of the pair.
Totally. Born prematurely, October 67. His early life was marked by real instability. Parents struggling financially, his father battling alcoholism, a complicated relationship with his stepfather. Just a lot going on.
Yeah, but what's striking is how he found his passion in all that chaos. At just 11, this is 1979, Romero discovers arcade games, like Asteroids.
A classic.
Totally. And he'd sneak away, despite his stepfather being really strict about it. He felt that, quote, fun like this was worth risking everything. That tells you a lot right there.
It really does, that relentless drive. Then he found computer gaming, programming, through Colossal Cave Adventure at Sierra College, actually learning from university students.
And Dungeons and Dragons, interestingly enough, was another huge inspiration. It really fueled his programming ambition.
Right. He sort of channeled all those turbulent emotions from home into creating comics, making games. His first published game was Scout Search. A small step, but it was a start.
And he got married young to Kelly Mitchell, started trying to build a career in game development. Even though he had some early job setbacks, he just kept pushing.
Okay, so then there's John Carmack, the quote-unquote rocket scientist.
Yeah, a very different vibe. Born August 1970 into a family of self-learners. Apparently he spoke late, but then suddenly started using full sentences. Scored at a 9th grade level in 2nd grade, just off the charts academically.
Wow, yeah, he excelled at school, loved fantasy novels, D&D, like Romero, actually. But he leaned more towards being the dungeon master, building the worlds, the narrative.
That makes sense.
And what's really fascinating is how his interest in computers just exploded after he encountered an Apple II. He basically just taught himself programming.
Just picked it up.
Yeah. And his fascination with arcade games quickly shifted into the early hacker culture through bulletin board systems, BBSs. For Carmack, it wasn't just about playing, it was the engineering underneath it all.
Exactly. Though he had this rebellious streak too, there was this incident involving an Apple II. It actually landed him in juvenile detention for a bit.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. A difficult time, apparently, but it seemed to kind of harden him without killing that desire to create. The book notes, and this is key, for Carmack, bombs were less about cheap thrills than about chemical engineering.
That says everything. It's that core drive to understand how things work, then build something new.
Totally. He kept developing games like Shadow Forge, and eventually that path led him to a contract with SoftDisk.
It's incredible, isn't it? Two such different backgrounds. Romero's sort of turbulent search for escape, Carmack's intellectual curiosity pushing towards engineering rebellion.
And yet they both ended up laser focused on this one thing, creating games.
Makes you wonder if that early friction, the challenges they faced, somehow fueled the groundbreaking stuff they did later.
Could be. Definitely forged resilience.
So with these two brilliant, but very different minds starting to find their way, the stage was set for them to actually meet.
Right. And that happened at this company called SoftDisk down in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Which has its own weird history with simulations, apparently, going back to the Civil War.
Yeah, a little bit of trivia there. SoftDisk itself, founded '81 by Al Vacovius and Jim Manham. It was basically a software subscription service for computer hobbyists back then.
Okay.
And Vacovius, smartly, decided to bring in game programmers to kind of beef up their offerings. That included John Romero, Lane Rose.
So Romero lands there first.
Yeah. And then Carmack joins, bringing this, like, quiet genius that pretty quickly got everyone's attention.
And Carmack's genius really started to shine there, didn't it? His programming work, especially on a game called Dangerous Dave.
Oh, yeah, the scrolling.
Exactly. He achieved this groundbreaking, smooth scrolling on a PC, which, I mean, that was revolutionary. PCs just didn't do that kind of fluid, console-like movement back then.
No way. It was clunky.
So Romero sees this. He's absolutely blown away by Carmack's technical skill, and he sees the future. On September 20, 1990, he basically says, hey, we should start our own company.
Just like that. Which leads to the legendary moonlighting scheme.
Right. The core team, Carmack, Romero, Adrian Carmack, no relation, confusingly. And Tom Hall, they kind of borrowed soft disk computers over a weekend.
Bold move.
Very bold. To create a demo, trying to port Super Mario Bros. 3 to the PC.
Imagine that. Nintendo ultimately said no thanks to a PC version, but just doing it proved what they could do together.
Totally. And they pivoted so fast. This shareware developer, Scott Miller from Apogee, he proposes a partnership. Like give away the first part free, then charge for more levels.
The shareware model. Game-changing distribution, really. Let them reach a huge audience without a publisher.
And from that, a new idea starts to bubble up. Tom Hall comes up with Commander Keen, this 8-year-old genius kid.
It just clicked with the team. It really brought their creative energy together.
Yeah, though there were apparently some tensions already, about project direction and stuff. But the development of Keen sounds like it was fueled by intense coding, pizza, and a lot of camaraderie.
Though Carmack's intense focus could sometimes cause friction, even then.
Right, but it worked. Commander Keen, Marooned on Mars, launches December 14th, 1990. Huge acclaim, strong sales, they'd done it.
But they still had this soft disk connection hanging over them.
Yeah, they eventually negotiated what the book calls a bittersweet resolution, cut ties, and officially launched their own independent company. id Software.
It just shows that, like, raw entrepreneurial spirit, the guts to take risks like, borrowing work computers.
Yeah. And how that shared vision turned Carmack's tech breakthrough into a real commercial hit. A huge moment for them.
Absolutely foundational.
Okay, so after that bittersweet break from soft disk, id Software is officially its own thing. They're making their own rules.
And they kept up their intense Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. Romero saw it as, like, an extension of their imaginations.
Right. And Carmack, as Dungeon Master, famously created this persistent world for their games, kind of blurring the lines.
With that new freedom, they cranked out more shareware games, Rescue Rover, Dangerous Dave and the Haunted Mansion. Adrian Carmack started adding these darker, more comical bits to the animations, exploring more graphic violence too.
Little experiments, but they were setting the stage, right?
Definitely. And this is where John Carmack's singular focus just changes everything. He gets completely obsessed with 3D graphics.
Obsessed is the word. Exploring techniques like raycasting.
Which is basically like shooting invisible lines from the player's view into the world to figure out what to draw, creating that 3D image.
Yeah, a huge leap. It gave this illusion of real depth on a PC. And that allowed id to basically invent the first-person shooter genre with games like Hover Tank.
And then Romero's ideas about texture mapping, putting detailed images onto the 3D surfaces, inspired Carmack even more. That led directly to Catacomb 3D.
Which really set the stage for, like, truly immersive 3D. Stuff nobody had really seen on a PC before.
So you have this amazing tech, Carmack's engine, and Romero's creative drive. What next?
Wolfenstein 3D. Romero suggests remaking the old classic Castle Wolfenstein, but in full 3D.
It makes perfect sense. The team needed a fresh start, too, so they relocated to Mesquite, Texas. Found a good spot for their intense work style. And they brought in Jay Wilbur as CEO to handle the business side. Smart move.
Yeah, definitely needed. But even with all that energy, you still had conflicts popping up.
Always.
Carmack, the engineer, right? He valued efficient code, speed above all. Initially, he resisted stuff like push walls, secret doors you activate.
Because it added complexity, slowed things down slightly, maybe.
Probably. But Romero and Tom Hall, they push hard for features like that, for secrets, for deeper gameplay.
And Carmack eventually gave in on the push walls, right? Shows he could compromise for the game itself.
Yeah. And Wolfenstein 3D, I mean, it did not shy away from controversy. Graphic violence, the famous death cam replay.
And that rating? PC-13? Profound carnage? Tongue-in-cheek, but still.
Totally. Released May 5, 1992. Instant sensation. Made serious money.
Huge hit. But yeah, it also kicked off massive online discussions and huge controversy. The violence, the Nazi imagery, it got banned in Germany pretty quickly.
Right? But weirdly, it also inspired gamers to create their own levels, their own modifications mods. That was huge, pioneering user-generated content in a way.
Absolutely. Then the follow-up, Spear of Destiny, cemented their fame. And the conversation inside id, it shifted from kids' games like Keen to more mature themes, demons specifically.
Which leads us directly to Doom.
Exactly. And what's striking here is how that cutting-edge tech, even with all the internal arguments, could just create these instant cultural landmarks.
And it really highlights those early intense debates about video game violence. Debates that honestly are still going on today in different forms.
It's kind of amazing how long that conversation has lasted.
Speaking of Doom, this is where things just go supernova. Fall of '92, Card G Software moves into Suite 666 in the Townies Tower.
Suite 666, you can't make this stuff up.
Right, the perfect, unsettling vibe for the dark, demonic themes of Doom. And this move also marked a big shift for them business-wise. They decided to self-publish Doom.
Moving away from Apogee, their shareware partner, why was that?
Strains in the relationship, concerns about lost revenue. They basically wanted full control, total independence.
Makes sense, given the scale they were aiming for, but that independence brought its own challenges, right, internally.
Oh yeah. Tom Hall, for instance, he envisioned Doom having this strong story, emotional depth even. But Carmack and Romero, they were all about gameplay mechanics, speed, action. Narrative wasn't the priority.
So Hall felt sidelined.
Pretty much. He was eventually asked to resign. Which is harsh, but it shows how focused they were on the tech and the core gameplay loop. Execution over story.
And Carmack's tech for Doom, I mean, it was genuinely revolutionary, things like binary space partitioning, BSP.
Right, which was this clever way to organize the game world so the computer only had to draw what the player could actually see at that moment.
Which meant incredible speed and these super immersive 3D environments that just weren't possible before on typical hardware.
And his obsession with speed wasn't just code deep, right?
Yeah.
Didn't he famously turbocharge his Ferrari?
Yeah, the Ferrari 328. It was all about pushing limits everywhere in his life.
So you have this incredible tech foundation, but it needed great design on top.
Right. So they brought in Sandy Peterson, an experienced designer known for Call of Cthulhu. His job was kind of balancing Romero's high-octane action design with his own more strategic, almost puzzle-like level elements.
Trying to make Doom different from popular CD-ROM games at the time, like Myst, which is huge, but slow, contemplative.
Exactly. Doom was about real-time interaction, blistering speed, horror, and, lots of gore.
Then comes what some people call the Doom generation. It's 1993, Mortal Kombat hits the arcades and consoles, and it sparks this national panic about violent video games.
Senator Joseph Lieberman gets involved, calling for regulation.
And the timing for Doom is just uncanny. It gets released December 9th, 1993. Literally the day after Lieberman's big hearings on game violence.
Wow. Talk about timing.
And it just becomes this instant cultural phenomenon. Spreads like wildfire across university networks, workplaces, captivating gamers everywhere.
So addictive, it was literally shutting down networks, garnering mainstream media attention. The book nails it. Doom wasn't just a game, it was a culture.
And the culture inside id Software itself was interesting. Competitive, definitely collaborative in ways. Carmack's open approach to the engine really enabled that community modding scene to explode.
Which just fueled its popularity even more, created this incredibly passionate fan base.
But Romero's fame, it started to become a thing, maybe diverting his focus a bit. It led to delays on Doom 2, apparently caused some growing tension with Carmack.
Yeah, Carmack stayed completely laser-focused on the tech, hitting deadlines. He saw distractions as, getting in the way of progress.
Even Bill Gates sat up and took notice. He was genuinely shocked that Doom had over 10 million downloads, more than Windows 95 had reached at that point.
He actually considered buying in software. That's how big it was.
Yeah. Microsoft realized games were crucial for multimedia PCs, so they developed DirectX to make sure games ran well on Windows.
And they even showcased a Windows version, WinDoom, at this big Halloween Judgment Day event. Had Jay Leno, a video with Bill Gates himself pushing Windows 95 as a gaming platform using Doom.
It's just wild. Looking at the big picture here, you see the sheer power of Doom as a cultural force.
Absolutely, and it's such a clear case study in that constant tension. Creative vision, massive commercial success, and then the social responsibility debates that always seem to follow groundbreaking media.
A truly defining moment, no question.
So Dune's success was obviously massive, world-changing, but it also kind of set the stage for the next big thing, the next challenge, Quake.
Right. Carmack introduces his vision for Quake, and again, it's inspired by their Dungeons & Dragons roots. Romero, naturally, is super excited, starts throwing in creative ideas.
But before Quake really got going, Doom 2 came out. Another huge success, sold out its first run in like a month.
And they had that classic Romero Easter egg, right?
Yeah.
His own head on a spike.
Yeah, saying, "To win the game, you must kill me, John Romero." Just peak Romero humor and ego, maybe. But what was really transformative around this time was Deathmatch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Multiplayer Doom.
Exactly. This guy, Bob Huntley, Dwango Bob, he creates Dwango dial-up wide area network game operation, basically letting people play Doom against each other online over phone lines.
Which sounds primitive now, but that was the foundation.
Yeah.
For online multiplayer, for esports, it all started there, really.
Absolutely. But this period, this excitement around Deathmatch and new projects, it also deepened the rift between Romero and Carmack.
So?
Well, some people felt Romero was getting distracted, too much time deathmatching, too many new ideas, not enough focus on getting Quake done.
Meanwhile, Carmack, ever the programmer, just wanted to build the engine. He brings in new talent, Michael Abrosh, American McGee, guys focused on the core Quake tech.
Right, so you have the intense pressure of creating Quake, which was technologically even more ambitious than Doom, plus these diverging visions. Romero's expansive ideas versus Carmack's pure technical drive.
And it created this growing tension, this rift. There were reports of a lack of clear leadership, frustration, and eventually Romero leaves id Software.
Which was just monumental. The end of that iconic partnership. End of an era, really.
So what happens after Romero leaves?
Well, id Software actually struggled a bit initially with Quake's distribution, dealing with piracy. Carmack's response was typical Carmack, focus on the tech, pivot towards smaller projects for a bit, but really doubled down on things like 3D graphics acceleration for the next game, Quake 2.
And Romero.
He launches his own company, Ion Storm.
Mm-hmm.
Big splash, big ambitions. His philosophy, design is law. Explicitly prioritizing creativity over technology, kind of a direct shot at Carmack's approach.
Oh, wow. So it became public.
Oh, yeah. A public war of words, a real rivalry.
And that led to that E3 showdown in '97.
Exactly. E3, 1997. You had id showing off the technologically stunning Quake system, and Ion Storm showing Romero's hugely ambitious Daikatana. And it became pretty clear even then that Daikatana was facing some serious development hurdles.
Around this time, Dallas becomes this major game dev hub, right? The Silicon Alamo.
Yeah, partly fueled by id, licensing out their engines, lots of competition. And even inside id, things got intense. A competitive bonus structure reportedly led Carmack to become a bit isolated within his own company.
But Ion Storm, things weren't going well there either.
No. Major struggles. Financial problems, huge project delays. Daikatana became infamous for delays, clashes over the company culture, a lack of confidence. Key developers started leaving. The book quotes someone saying, "It shouldn't have been this big, this was too many people, too much money." Just a stark contrast to those early id days.
Wow. Then 1999 happens. Columbine.
Yeah. A terrible tragedy, and it brought video game violence right back into the national spotlight fiercely. Media reports tragically link the shooter's actions to playing games like Doom and Quake.
That must have been incredibly difficult for id, for Carmack and Romero personally. What was the response?
The gaming industry, including id, pushed back hard. They argued games were entertainment, not the cause of violence. They pointed to studies, talked about context, pushed for ratings and parental controls.
Did Carmack or Romero comment directly?
Carmack maintained his belief there was no direct causal link. Romero acknowledged that maybe his own background influenced the violent content he created, but stressed that ultimately it was about parental responsibility regarding what kids consume. They didn't really take sides in the political debate itself, more reflected on the issue from their perspectives.
So moving towards the end of this era, what happens next for them?
By late 2000, Carmack gets married to Anna Kang, who is actually a Quake fan who organized an all-female tournament, which is pretty cool. And Carmack starts looking towards the next big thing. Massively multiplayer online RPGs. He envisioned this generalized infrastructure for persistent online worlds, really rooted in that old hacker ethic of sharing and building.
Even if people at id weren't totally on board, there was conflict over doing Doom 3rd versus his online Quest project, right?
Exactly. But he kept pushing. And he also got deeply into, of all things, rocketry. building actual rockets, like a new engineering frontier beyond games.
Wow. And Romero, after Ion Storm.
Well, Daikatana eventually came out, and it didn't do well. Iron Storm faced layoffs. But Romero, along with Tom Hall and Stevie Case, they formed a new, smaller company, Monkey Stone Games. The idea was to get back to basics, intimate, fun, collaborative game development, like trying to recapture that early magic.
It's incredible. This whole period, it's like the ultimate test of their partnership, their visions, navigating huge success, public scrutiny, always chasing the next big thing.
And it led them down totally separate paths, didn't it? But both still driven, just in different directions.
What an absolutely epic journey we've just unpacked.
Mm.
I mean, John Carmack and John Romero, through their individual brilliance, that intense collective ambition, they didn't just make iconic games.
No, they built an empire that fundamentally changed the gaming landscape forever.
Their story, from battling tough childhoods to battling each other over creative control, it just highlights the sheer drive needed for that kind of innovation.
Yeah, and the complexities of collaboration, even when it's incredibly successful, and the personal costs sometimes of that relentless ambition. It's all in there.
It's really a testament to passion, to perseverance, and just the constant, sometimes messy evolution of technology and culture itself.
Definitely. Passion, perseverance, and maybe a little bit of chaos mixed in.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with something to think about. A provocative thought, maybe. What does it really mean to master something?
Is it about technical perfection, like Carmack often pursued? Is it about visionary design, maybe more Romero's angle?
Or is it maybe the ability to constantly reinvent yourself, your craft, even if that means leaving behind the very world and sometimes the people you helped create?
And for us, as players, as observers, how do these persistent worlds, they help pioneer both the virtual ones and the real-world tech industry they shaped? How do they keep shaping our own desires for escape, for connection, for creativity?
Something to definitely mull over long after the pixels fade on the screen.